In the spotlight tonight is Jim Cook from Starport-on-Severn, a factory worker. His specialist subject is British Prime Ministers of the 20th century. Jane Ann Liston from St Andrews, a local councillor. Hers is the life and works of Robert Ferguson. Roland Marshall from Broadstairs in Kent, an IT consultant, and his subject is Fawlty Towers. And Andrew Warmington from Hampton in Middlesex, a trade magazine editor, whose subject is the English Civil War. Hello, I'm John Humphreys, and welcome to the first of 6 semi-finals of Mastermind. Each of our 4 contenders tonight has won a round already. And tonight, the winner is guaranteed a place in the grand final and the chance to win this magnificent glass bowl and, more importantly, the title of Mastermind 2004. All they have to do is answer 2 minutes of questions on their chosen subject and 2 minutes on general knowledge. So the pressure is on. Let's have our first contender, please. And your name is?
Jim Cook.
And your occupation?
Factory worker.
Your chosen subject last time around was American manned space flight. Tonight it is?
British Prime Ministers of the 20th century.
In 2 minutes, starting now, who was the only 20th century British Prime Minister to have been born outside the United Kingdom?
Bonar Law.
Correct. In which safe Tory seat did Tony Blair first stand, winning only 10% of the vote and losing his deposit?
Guildford.
Beaconsfield. Which British Prime Minister in his correspondence with the American President often signed himself former naval person?
Winston Churchill.
Correct. When Campbell Bannerman resigned as Prime Minister owing to illness in 1908, to which French resort was Herbert Asquith summoned by Edward VII to kiss hands?
Biarritz.
Yes. Who is the only 20th century Prime Minister to have held the post after serving as Chancellor of the Exchequer, Foreign Secretary and Home Secretary?
Callaghan.
Correct. Which phrase used by Margaret Thatcher in 1980 came to be associated with her harsh economic policies and is known by the acronym TINA?
There is no alternative.
Indeed. According to the KGB defector Vasily Mitrokhin, which British Prime Minister was given the KGB code name Olding?
Harold Wilson.
It was. In which club did the Conservatives meet when they voted to withdraw from Lloyd George's coalition government, which led to his resignation in October 1922?
Carlton Club.
Yes. What was Neville Chamberlain's first Christian name, which he rarely used?
Robert.
Arthur. Which former Prime Minister allegedly remarked, "It is fitting that we should have buried the unknown Prime Minister by the side of the unknown soldier," after Bonar Law's funeral in Westminster Abbey?
Asquith.
Yes. When she first arrived at Downing Street as Prime Minister, to whom did Margaret Thatcher attribute the words, "Where there is discord, may we bring harmony"?
Francis of Assisi.
Yes. Edward Heath is one of only 2 20th century Prime Ministers not to have married. Who's the other?
A.J. Balfour.
Yes. Which Liberal MP summed up Macmillan's sacking of nearly half of his cabinet in July 1962 with the words, "Greater love hath no man than this, that he lay down his friends for his life"?
Pass.
Which 20th century Prime Minister did not achieve the position until after his 69th birthday?
Pass.
On becoming Prime Minister in May 1940, Churchill gave himself the additional title of Minister of what?
Defence.
Yes. What was the main title of Harold Macmillan's influential 1938 book, which advocated more government intervention in economic and social affairs?
The Middle Way.
The Middle Way it was. You had 2 passes there. The chap who didn't get the job until after he was 69 was Campbell Bannerman. And the Liberal MP with that wonderful phrase, "Greater love hath no man than this, that he lay down his friends for his life," was Jeremy Thorpe. 2 passes. Jim Cook, you have 12 points.
Thank you.
And our next contender, please. And your name is?
Jane Ann Liston.
Your occupation?
Local councillor.
Last time around, you chose the life and works of Offenbach. Tonight, your chosen subject is?
The life and works of Robert Ferguson.
In 2 minutes, starting now. In which Edinburgh close was Robert Ferguson born on the 5th of September 1750?
Cap and feather.
Correct. Ferguson has been hailed as both a forerunner of Robert Burns and as a natural successor to which Lanarkshire-born writer who died in 1758?
Alan Ramsay.
Correct. Which professor of mathematics who died while Ferguson was at St Andrews was the subject of a somewhat irreverent elegy by Ferguson?
David Gregory.
He was. In 1769, Ferguson overstayed his welcome at the house of his uncle John Forbes, leaving under a cloud in which of his poems, generally thought to express his annoyance at this, does he he complain of man's ingratitude?
Repining against fortune.
The Decay of Friendship. Which singer included 3 songs with words by Ferguson in his production of Thomas Arne's opera Artaxerxes?
Tenducci.
Correct. What was the family surname of Thomas and Walter, who published Ferguson's material in the weekly magazine in the 1770s?
Ruddyman.
Yes. In Old Reekie, the vernacular Scots celebration of Edinburgh life, which line follows "on stair with tub or pat in hand"?
Pass.
What was Ferguson's pseudonym in the Cape Club, which met in various Edinburgh taverns to enjoy drinking, conversation and song?
Sir Presenter.
It was. A meeting with which clergyman from Haddington is thought by some to have led Ferguson to review his spiritual position, burn various unpublished manuscripts and study nothing but the Bible?
Brown.
Yes, John Brown. Which of Ferguson's elegies is preceded by a quote of Orsino from Act 2, Scene 4 of Shakespeare's Twelfth Night?
The elegy on the death of Scots music.
Correct. In which records office in Edinburgh did Ferguson spend most of his working life as a copying clerk?
Commissary Clerk's office.
Correct. Hallow Fair, the title of a poem in its own right, is also referred to in which other of Ferguson Scott's vernacular poems which went on to inspire Burns' Holy Fair?
Leith Races.
Correct. Which tavern in the Cowgate was referred to by Ferguson in his poem Caller Oysters?
Lucky Middlemists.
Yes. Which poet who died in Newcastle's madhouse was the subject of a poem published in 1773, a year before Ferguson's own death in Edinburgh's asylum?
Cunningham.
Yes. The months when the court does not sit is bad for business. For whose coffee room, according to the poem The Rising of the Session?
Indian Peters.
Indian Peter it was, and you had just the one pass in Old Reekie. The line that follows "on stair we tub or pat in hand" was "the barefoot housemaid's loo to stand." With that one pass, Jane Ann Liston, you have 13 points. And our next contender, please. And your name is?
Roland Marshall,
Your occupation?
IT consultant.
In the first round, you chose Elgar as your chosen subject. Your subject tonight is?
Faulty Towers.
In 2 minutes, starting now, what was the name of the manager of the Glen Eagles Hotel in Torquay upon whom John Cleese based the character of Basil Fawlty?
Donald Sinclair.
It was. Which is the only episode where the sign outside the hotel is not featured during the opening music?
The Germans.
Yes. What is the name of the episode in which Basil, when saying goodbye to a satisfied customer, suggests to Sybil that they should have him stuffed?
Hotel inspectors.
Communication problems. In The Builders, what is the first name of Miss Gatsby mentioned by Miss Tibbs in a conversation between Basil and the 2 old ladies?
Ursula.
Yes. In which episode does Sybil's friend Audrey, with whom she's frequently heard gossiping on the telephone, make a fleeting appearance?
The Anniversary.
Yes. When discussing German women in a typically confused conversation between Basil and Major Gowan, the Major says they possess which quality?
They're good card players.
Yes. In The Hotel Inspectors, Mr. Hutchinson asks if he can reserve the television so that he can watch a documentary about which Native American chief?
Squawking Bird.
Yes. What was the name of the Latin teacher at John Cleese's prep school upon whom Cleese based the character of Major Gowan?
Timothy Bateson.
Captain Lancaster. What is the name of the director of the second series of Fawlty Towers, who 18 years later directed Spice World?
Bob Spears.
Yes. In the pilot episode, which subject was Polly studying before the part was rewritten to portray her as an art student?
Philosophy.
Yes. Which actor was originally cast as Roger in The Anniversary but was replaced by Ken Campbell when he became unavailable?
Ronnie Barker.
Julian Holloway. The exterior of 294 Preston Road near Harrow in Middlesex was used for which location in the episode Gourmet Night?
Andre's Restaurant.
Correct. When Basil is about to do an impression of Adolf Hitler in front of the Germans, whom does Polly try to persuade him to impersonate instead?
Jimmy Cagney.
Yes, in The Psychiatrist, when Sybil's admiring Mr. Johnson's chain, where does he say he came by the Greek astrological sign?
Colchester.
Yes, in The Hotel Inspectors, when Basil and Manuel carry out a conversation entirely using signs, what is written on the only sign held up by Manuel?
Okay.
OK. In A Touch of Class, who does the fake Lord Melbury say he could ask to put a value on Basil's coin
Duke
collection?
of Buckley.
Correct. Which character is named after I've started, so I shall finish. Which character is named after a restaurateur friend of John Cleese, who gave him advice regarding the biggest problem faced by hoteliers, getting rid of guests who have died in the night?
Bill Morton.
Mr. Lehman. You had no passes. You too, Roland Marshall, have 13 points. And our next contender, please. And your name is?
Andrew Warmington.
Your occupation?
Trade magazine editor.
Last time around you chose capital punishment. Tonight you're choosing...
The English Civil War, 1642 to 1651.
Starting now, in which city did Charles I raise the royal standard on the 22nd of August 1642 and proclaim the commons and their soldiers traitors?
Nottingham.
Correct. The heavy armour worn by the men of Sir Arthur Heselridge's mounted regiment of cuirassiers earned them which nickname?
Lobsters.
Yes. Which port town successfully resisted the siege of the King's nephew, Prince Maurice, from April to June 1644?
Lyme.
Yes. While under the charge of which famous physician did the King's young sons, Charles and James, narrowly escape the impact of a cannonball while observing the Battle of Edge Hill?
Dr. Jameson.
Dr. Harvey. At the Battle of Worcester in 1651, who was the General of Horse and Cromwell's future son-in-law who led a parliamentary force across the River Teme via a pontoon bridge of boats?
Charles Fleetwood.
Yes. In which city is the King Charles Tower, from which Charles I is traditionally said to have watched the scattered remains of his forces retreating after the Battle of Rowton Moor in September 1645?
Chester.
Yes. At which battle on the 16th of May 1643 was Sir Ralph Hopton victorious against a much larger army, capturing 1,700 parliamentarians?
Roundway Down.
No, Stamford Hill or Stratton. In March 1646, at which battle under the command of Lord Astley was the last Royalist field army of the First English Civil War defeated?
Stow-on-the-Wold.
Correct. Alexander Leslie, Earl of Leven, the leader of the Scottish contingent of the Roundhead Army at Marston Moor, was a veteran of 30 years' service in the army of which European country?
Sweden.
Yes. What was the name of the King's standard-bearer who was killed at the Battle of Edge Hill?
Sir Edmund Verney.
Correct. At the Battle of Naseby, Colonel Oakey's dragoons were hidden behind which hedge when their crossfire hampered Rupert's initial cavalry charge?
The Sully Hedge.
Selby. Who was appointed the first Lord General of the Parliamentary Army on the 13th of July 1642?
The Earl of Essex.
Yes. In 1645, after which of his victories did Cromwell report to see this? Is it not to see the face of God?
Naseby.
Langport. Shortly after the defeat at Marston Moor, which royalist commander went into exile on the continent saying, "I will not endure the laughter of the court"?
The Earl of Newcastle.
Yes. Who was the president of the court assembled for the trial of Charles I who pronounced the sentence of death on the king?
John Bradshaw.
Correct. On the eve of the Battle of Naseby, which future son-in-law of Oliver Cromwell captured a royalist outpost while the Cavaliers were having supper and playing quoits?
Henry Ireton.
Henry Ireton it was. You had no passes, Andrew Warmington. You have scored 12 points. Now that brings us to the end of our first round on specialist subjects, and a very close round it was. Let's have a look at the scores. In fourth place with 12 points, 2 passes, Jim Cook. In third place with 12 points, Andrew Warmington. Second place with 13 points and 1 pass, Jane Ann Liston. In first place with 13 points, no passes, Roland Marshall. So we move on to round 2 now, the general knowledge round. And if there is a tie at the end of this round, which there very well might be, then the number of passes will be taken into account. And the contender with the fewest passes will be declared the winner. If there's still a tie on points, then there'll be a 5-question playoff. So let's get on with the general knowledge round. And let me ask Jim Cook to join us again, please. And you've done British Prime Ministers of the 20th century. 2 sorts of Prime Minister you reckon that there were?
Yes, I think there are those who, to put it politely, have greatness thrust upon them and those who lust after greatness. And quite often, those who aspire desperately to the top job and are expected to get it don't always get it. I think there's a lot to be said for what Asquith said about it, that character matters more than brains. You know.
How do you think the Prime Ministers have changed in the last century?
Well, I think the job has become much more presidential. That I don't necessarily think is necessarily the fault of politicians, but the nature of the media means that it becomes more presidential.
Well, let's move on from Prime Ministers to general knowledge. 12 points at the moment. Let's see how you do with your 2 minutes of general knowledge, starting now. Which Latin term is used for the part of the skull that encloses and protects the brain?
Pass.
Which thriller writer was the author of Lester Pickett's biography, A Jockey's Life?
Dick Francis.
Correct. In architecture, what name is given to a building of no practical purpose, constructed purely to amuse or delight the viewer?
Folly.
Yes. His Holiness Pope Shen Uda III is the head of which church?
Coptic.
Yes. Which American, best known for inventing a means of communication, was originally a portrait painter who became professor of painting and sculpture at New York University in 1832?
Morse.
Yes. What term is used for the female reproductive organ of a flower?
Stamen.
Carpel. Which political anthem was written by James Connell, an Irish sheep farmer turned politician?
Red flag.
Yes. Which of Napoleon's marshals led the Old Guard at the Battle of Waterloo and was executed for high treason in December 1815?
Pass.
In the song Waltzing Matilda, what is a coolabah?
It's a tree.
Yes. Which novelist wrote Master Georgie, a tale that follows the adventures of Liverpudlians during the Crimean War?
Pass.
The Shambles and Stonegate are both medieval streets in which English city?
York.
Yes. Which sport consists of 5 events: pistol shooting, épée fencing, swimming, horse riding and cross-country running?
Modern pentathlon.
Yes. Elton John and Tim Rice won a Tony Award in 2000 for Best Musical Score for their version of which Verdi opera?
Pass.
What is the third-person singular of the present subjunctive of the Latin verb to rest, usually abbreviated the letter R on gravestones?
Requisite.
Correct. What was the name of the family who lived upstairs in the TV series Upstairs, Downstairs?
Bellamy.
Yes. In the poem To Althea from Prison by Richard Lovelace, which line follows "Stone walls do not a prison make"?
No iron bars a cage.
Correct. Which mountain range forms the border between KwaZulu-Natal and Lesotho?
Drakensberg.
Correct. What began in Britain on 1st of September 1939, 2 days before the Second World War broke out under the codename Operation Pied Piper?
Pass.
Of which Caribbean island was former pirate Captain Morgan, a deputy governor for 14 years, eventually dying there in 1688?
Jamaica.
Correct. What term is used for a fruit tree whose branches are trained to grow... I've started, so I'll finish. Whose branches are trained to grow horizontally in pairs against wire supports?
Rhizomes.
Espalier. So, you had 5 passes altogether there, Jim Cook. It was the evacuation from the cities that we were talking about. Elton John and Tim Rice won a Tony for their version of Aida. The novelist who wrote Master Georgie was Beryl Bainbridge. Napoleon's marshal we were looking for was Marshal Ney. The Latin term used for the part of the skull is the cranium. And you knew that as well,
Simple
of course.
as that, yeah.
You had 5 passes. You now have a total of 25 points. And now Andrew Warmington, if he would, please. The English Civil War, for which you also got 12 points, a crucially important time in Britain's history.
Extraordinary things happened, but you could argue that it didn't change anything very much in the long run.
Is there anything in the way we are now that says, because lots of other countries have civil wars after all, that says, no, we will not have a civil war?
I think what has changed and what was permanently changed by the Civil War was the role of religion in English society. And I think the Civil War was first and last a war of religion. Since then, the role that religion has played has dwindled away, and that issue has not been up there to be fought over.
Right, you had 12 points in this very close contest. Let's see how you do with general knowledge, starting now. Which Irish playwright wrote Shadow of a Gunman, first performed in 1923?
W.B. Yeats.
Sean O'Casey. Which early locomotive on view at the Science Museum was built by William Hedley in 1813?
The Rocket.
Puffing Billy. Which highly poisonous member of the parsley family can be recognised by its smooth, purple-spotted stem and its mousy smell if the plant is crushed?
Deadly Nightshade.
Hemlock. In which film musical did Bing Crosby and Frank Sinatra sing Well Did You Ever?
Road to Rio.
High Society. In Roman mythology, which twins were the sons of Ray Sylvia and the war god Mars?
Castor and Pollux.
Romulus and Remus. Which ballet by Adolph Adam is subtitled The Willies? Willies being the spirits of girls who die before their intended marriages.
Pass.
In which novel by J.B. Priestley, an account of theatrical adventures on the road, is Jess Oakroyd one of the leading characters?
The Good Companions.
Correct. The pollex, an anatomical feature that humans share with other primates, is better known by what name?
Kneecap.
The thumb. Which European country is known in its own language as Republika Scyprysia?
Albania.
Correct. What was first held in 776 BC, banned in 393 AD by the Roman Emperor Theodosius I, and revived again over 1,500 years later?
The Olympic Games.
Correct. The little or dab-chick, great-crested and black-necked are species of which bird?
Wren.
The grebe. Who was the 3rd President of the United States and chief author of the Declaration of Independence?
Thomas Jefferson.
Correct. Which German city's coat of arms appears on the badge of the Porsche car company?
Stuttgart.
Correct. World in Union, the theme written for the 1991 Rugby World Cup, was based on a movement from which orchestral suite?
Pass.
Which of the Queen's cousins was imprisoned in Colditz from 1944 to 45?
The Duke of Kent.
The Earl of Howard. If you were served cuy, the Ecuadorian national dish and also a delicacy in Peru, what would you be eating?
Pass.
The Iron Gates Gorge lies on which European river?
Danube.
Yes. Which word, now meaning a social outcast, was originally the name of one of the lower Indian castes?
Pariah.
Correct. Which English... I've started, so I shall finish. Which English city was founded by the Dumnomii tribe and given the name Isca Dumnomiorum by the Romans?
Chester.
Exeter. You had 3 passes. That strange disc, Kui, the Ecuadorian national disc, it's guinea pig. World in Union came from the planets, and the ballet that we were looking for was Giselle. So, 3 passes. You have, Andrew Warmington, a total of 19 points. And now Jane Liston, if she would join us, please. So, another 13-pointer with the life and works of Robert Ferguson, whom I suspect most people know very little, if anything, about, though he was a great poet.
Yes, he was. I think interest was revived recently when we got the 250th anniversary of his birth, and I think anyone who's certainly studying Robert Burns will probably have picked up Ferguson that way.
Burns thought he was great.
Oh, yes. He read Ferguson's poems, and that seemed to inspire him, and all the well-known Burns poems were after that.
Right, 13 points, and 25 points is the score to beat as we speak, so let's see how you do with your general knowledge. What word used for a swimming pool or bathing beach is the name of the beach island across the lagoon from St. Mark's in Venice?
Piscina.
Lido. Written in Le Temps in 1877, the critic Paul Mance described which woman as the only impressionist?
Pass.
By what Tamil name is the Indian city of Madras now known?
Badras.
Chennai. Blackbird has spoken like the first bird is the second line of which hymn based on Psalm 118 verse 24 and recorded in 1972 by Cat Stevens?
Morning has broken.
Correct. Which 2 countries jointly hosted the Euro 2000 football championships?
Netherlands and Belgium.
Yes. In Shakespeare's The Winter's Tale, what is the name of the heroine, the daughter of Hermione and Leontes?
Perdita.
Correct. In which of the Yorkshire Dales is the town of Richmond and the village of Reeth?
Pass.
Giancarlo Menotti's opera Amal and the Night Visitors and Benjamin Britten's Owen Wingrave were both specifically written for which medium?
Television.
Yes. Which long, thin dinosaur, whose name means double beam, had an extremely small brain in relation to its size?
Diplodocus.
Correct. The Rachel Papers, published in 1973, was the first novel by which writer?
Bell Rainbridge.
Martin Amis. Which is the only independent French-speaking republic in the Americas?
Pass.
From the Italian for to raise, what term is applied to sculpture that projects from a background surface rather than standing freely?
Relief.
Correct. Who starred as Philip Marlowe in the 1975 version of Farewell, My Lovely?
Pass.
In Norse mythology, which god lived at the entry to Asgard where he guarded Bifrost, the rainbow bridge?
Loki.
Heimdall. In a bird's anatomy, what term is used for the thin-walled sac between the esophagus and the stomach in which food may be stored?
The gizzard.
The crop. What did American writer H.L. Mencken define as the inner voice which warns us that someone may be looking?
The homunculus.
Conscience. Which... I just started, but I shall finish. Which common shrub widely grown in Cornwall produces blue flowers in acid soil and pink ones in alkaline soil?
Hydrangea.
The hydrangea it is. You had 4 passes. It was Robert Mitchum, I think you nearly said it as well, who starred in Farewell, My Lovely. Haiti is the only independent French-speaking republic in the Americas. Swale Day was the Yorkshire Dale that we were looking for. And the only woman impressionist, according to Paul Mance, was Bette Morisot. So, 4 passes. Jane Liston, you have 20 points. And finally, Roland Marshall again, please. So, you know a great deal about Fawlty Towers. And what is it? What makes it what it is so good?
I think the central characters are very... work on a lot of levels. I think you can always see Basil as, I suppose, this sort of just manic idiot who basically shouldn't be running a hotel. But I think there are different layers to his character. I mean, a lot of the situations he finds himself in are because he tries to hide things from Sybil, or because of his own vanity or snobbery gets him into these scrapes. But there are other episodes as well where things happen to him which aren't really his fault, and they just sort of turn on these very slight plot points.
And of course, this programme featured in one of the episodes.
Yeah. You know, your specialist subject should be our Mastermind, Sybil, the bleeding obvious, as he says to us in a...
Well, you're not allowed to choose the bleeding obvious on this programme, but you scored 13 points. So, you have to beat 25. Let's see how you do with your general knowledge. 2 minutes, starting now. France's unknown soldier is buried at which Paris landmark?
Underneath the Arc de Triomphe.
Correct. Which character created by the Russian writer Ivan Goncharov is used as a byword for physical and mental laziness?
Lackadaisical.
Oblomov. Which isotope of strontium with a half-life of 28 years is capable of being metabolized with calcium so that it collects in bone and is present in radioactive fallout?
Strontium.
Strontium, I need the name, the number?
24.
Strontium 90. Who was the first of the Hebrew patriarchs, a figure revered by Judaism, Christianity and Islam?
King David.
Abraham. Which letter of the Greek alphabet has a name that means little o?
Omicron.
Correct. Which Olympic marathon winner was a member of Haile Selassie's imperial bodyguard?
Ibi Bikila.
Correct. Which word meaning screen or veil is used to describe the custom in some countries of secluding women from public view?
Burqa.
Purda. Who wrote the poem Do Not Go Gently Into That Good Night, dedicated to his dying father?
Tennyson.
Dylan Thomas. Which German architect was the armaments minister of the Third Reich from 1942 until 1945?
Albert Speer.
Correct. In children's television, which race of small mouse-shaped people shared their blue-cratered planet with characters such as the Soup Dragon and the Iron Chicken?
The Clangers.
Yes. At which university did Prince Charles spend one term in the summer of 1969?
St Andrews.
Aberystwyth. In which sport or pastime is the Kirby bend, invented in the 1650s by Charles Kirby, still in common use today?
Bobsleighing.
Angling. Named after a French physicist, what is the SI unit of electrical charge?
Resistance.
The Coulomb. Which legendary Irish hero is said to have built the Giant's Causeway?
Finn McCool.
Correct. Which garden flower takes its name from its supposed resemblance to a dolphin's head?
A daffodil.
Delphinium. Henry Fitz-Aylwin was the first holder of which civic office established in about 1189?
Lord Mayor of London.
Correct. Which Latin word meaning field is often used to describe the area around a university?
Campus.
Campus it is. And your time is up. You had no passes. You have scored a total of 21 points. So, at the end of that round, the general knowledge round, let's have a look at the scores. In fourth place with 19, Andrew Warmington. In third place with 20, Jane Ann Liston. In second place with 21, Roland Marshall. In first place, he held on to his lead with 25, Jim Cook. Which means, of course, that Jim Cook becomes our first finalist to go through to the grand final. Congratulations to him. Thanks and commiserations to the other gallant semi-finalists. Please join us next time for our second semi-final and more Masterminds. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.
Well, we never had James May down as a horse racing commentator. It's all going on in that man lab of his tonight at 8 here on BBC Two. On the way next, how two heroic women took to the skies to defend their country in How We Won the War.